Where I lived was where my wife grew up, same street she grew up on, and all firemen that worked in the city. And I came home from work one day, I've been in the trade, and she's like, hey, what do you think about us moving to Florida?
What was your first day at work like? 23 years old, don't know anything.
The owner was a master sales guy.
Okay.
And his philosophy was take a guy and break him, even if he's not asking for it. Looking back, they did me a huge favor. When you have mentors like that, you owe them something. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but they really saved my life.
Steven, you talked a little bit about the accident. What happened?
As I walked over to get on the ladder, I went to step on the ladder, and as soon as I stepped on the ladder, it was like God just yanked the ladder away from me.
The Northerners are very tough.
Yeah,
Like,
they don't
us
mess around.
Southerners are just...
I got a great story if you want to put that on
happy.
there, because people would probably love it.
We're rolling.
So when I first moved down here, I walked into Publix and I was paying for something in the checkout line, and somebody came in with a real strong New Jersey accent, and they had strawberries in a container, and half the strawberries were gone. They ate half of them. So they went into this full-blown attack on this poor person working at Publix about how they had moss on them, they were bad, they were this and that, fighting with them, ready to go. And the person said, just go get yourself another one. And they looked at her and they're like, really? They go, yeah. So they looked at me and I said, you don't got to fight and put out a big act to get what you want.
Yeah,
they want to help you. Even though half of it's eaten, they want to help you. Where I'm from, they would have been an argument for an hour. You ate half of these things, how are you going to return them? So that just showed you how much more kind people are in the South versus up north.
You know, we have a lot of people who move from the North down here.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's a bad thing, but people from the North act a little different than the people in the South. So when did you move to Jacksonville? I mean, I know when you moved to Jacksonville, but let's talk a little bit about you,
Sure.
How you got down here.
So when COVID started, right when everything got crazy, everybody from New York City was wanting to get out in the actual city. So they realized they could buy a house up the outskirts of New York in Westchester, Connecticut for like the same price they pay a mortgage of an apartment out in the middle of Manhattan.
Yeah, that Manhattan rent's a lot.
Yeah, so New York, everybody was trying to get out of there because the virus was impacting everybody so close-knit in the buildings. They started buying up all where I lived. Where I lived was where my wife grew up, same street she grew up on, and all firemen that worked in the city. And I came home from work one day, I've been in the trade, and she's like, hey, what do you think about us moving to Florida? Her aunt had gotten very sick. Everybody, in the family decided, life's too short. You got to go do what you want to do. My wife showed me this place, Nocatee. I told her she was crazy. It looked like a cult, like how, perfect they made it.
Yeah, the Nocatee cult.
She goes, we could put $20,000 down on a lot and it'd take 4 months to build it. I said, there's no way you build a house in 4 months. She said, Florida's different. I put a down payment on the land, never stepped foot on it until it closed. This was 2020, March 8th. So March, COVID's hit. July, I put the down payment down. We sold our house in 1 day. Took 30 days to close. We had a buyer in 1 day. They were paying so much for the houses in New York. I got like double what I bought the house for. So we lived in an apartment, and she showed me the area down here, and she sent me every company that was hiring. Donovan wasn't showing up. I went through everything. I'm like, I don't feel it. I scrolled through. I saw you guys and you and your brother in the front, and I said, that's where I want to work. And me and you got on the phone, and you held a spot for me. Took 10 months. And you held that spot for me. 10 months later, I moved in. So I moved in July of 2021.
Yeah, so Steve was talking with Ralph. You were talking with Ralph.
I harassed Ralph every week, every month. Hey, still coming. This is where we're at. And he was like, all right, whatever.
It was comical.
Yeah.
Because he would come, he's like, this guy Coletta, I don't know who he thinks he is, but he says he's going to be the greatest.
Well, whatever. So I'm in a sales position, so I would send him from then on. I would send him every sale I made in New York and generators and this and stuff and projects I put together for customers, and I probably harassed them. But
let's talk a little bit about doing work in New York. What's the difference between, if you want to get into how you got started in the business in New York, we can. There's some big differences between the way we do things here in the South.
Sure.
And the way people do stuff in New York.
Yeah.
I'd like to just go into that because I find it fascinating.
So the biggest difference is most of the homes in New York or Connecticut area, or even Pennsylvania, they all have basements. So you'll either have a boiler doing your heat, copper piping and radiators through the whole house, your AC separate. You only need air conditioning 2 months out of the year. Some houses still don't even have air conditioning. You don't really have the humidity, even though you have the heat. So everything's engineered different. Everything lasts double the time. So when you come down to Florida and an air conditioner lasts 10 years, you could have an air conditioner 30 years old up there because it's only running 2 months. You could have a boiler last 30 years. The engineering is just very different. Florida's, it's not better or worse, they're just different. And Florida, the applications are just heat pumps. Most of them are crammed into a closet with a free flow draw.
Or an attic.
Or an attic that you can't get to. The biggest thing for me was a free flow air conditioner where it could be in this side of the house and everybody's on this side of the house pulling no return. Without getting too technical, all an air conditioner does is it sucks in the hot air from the house, dumps it back in cold.
So if you have a room that's really far away,
it's not pulling anything.
And you shut the door, it's like trying to blow up a gallon jug of, an empty gallon jug. You only blow so much air into that thing.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing for me to get used to application-wise because, in my position, when you're helping somebody that needs an air conditioner, you're not just wanting to change the air conditioner and get out of there. You want to see if you can improve the house. So the number one complaint when I started working was on, what you just described. And some houses have it, but some of them don't. So I just was big on pulling return from every area of the house. Nocatee, where I moved, is one of the biggest culprits of it as well. When I first moved into my house, I was looking around and I would see returns in the ceiling. And I would go in the attic and look, and they're not hooked up to anything.
Those are hideous.
They're not even real.
And they're just pass-through returns.
So when I started working and just helping customers, whether it's a maintenance, a service call, or a new system, and I'd go and I'd say, that's not hooked up to anything. And they, let's go look.
Let's go look.
And we'd go look, and there wasn't anything. And we'd go look at the unit in the closet, and look, it's just pulling through here. And that's like one of the biggest differences between up north and down here. Up north, when you have an air conditioner, you have one central air conditioner just pulling from the middle, one central return just pulling from the middle of the house. So that was like the biggest difference for what we do compared to up north and down here.
Yeah, and then, only running 2 months out of the year, everything's lasting a lot longer.
Yeah.
You have a boiler pumping hot water,
Yeah.
Through the house. Those are really, it takes a little, you can do anything, but it's a different type of animal, I would say a little bit more technical. Like you need more skill to be able to change a boiler than some of the stuff we do here. And some of the piping that's done there is a lot more intricate. You can't just learn how to do cast iron or hard pipe, in a summer.
It's a combustible element. There's more to go wrong. That being said, you can't use that pipe, that copper down here because it'll run out. So down here, you're especially by the ocean, you're more forced to use PEX piping or PVC.
So where did you start up in New York? Like what area, how did you get started in the business?
So my mother-in-law was a gym teacher, physical education, but she also taught a spin class at night. So this guy who ran A-Star Heating and Air Conditioning, he's a legend up in New York, was in love with my mother-in-law, and she said, hey, my son-in-law's trying to get into the trade. He went to schooling. You want to hire him. He has no experience. He just hired me anyway. He's like, I'll take him. I literally got a chance because my mother-in-law taught a spin class.
And how old were you at that point?
23.
23?
Yeah.
Were you 37 now?
38.
38.
So I worked in factories doing sheet metal work, but I went to night school for the trade because that's another difference in the trade. Up north, you can't work unless you go get certification and licensing. We're an advantage to South Florida. You could just go jump right into the trade if you want to work in it. You don't need any certification.
That's one of the challenges we face, at Donovan's is anybody can hop in a truck and go fix them to a degree, as long as you're working under somebody's license. And it's scary.
But it's a good thing too, because somebody like me that can't pass, that's not good with tests, but can physically do it, it actually gives somebody like me an advantage where up north it's more of it's a harder system to get into. So it's good and bad.
Anytime you overregulate something, it can be bad. I do think there's probably a happy medium, and there should be some additional licensing requirements here. Yeah. I feel that way. I feel like it's a little bit unregulated, especially on the HVAC side. I feel like the plumbing side maybe has a little bit more regulation for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So you get the job, you're going to work, What was your first day at work like? 23 years old, don't know anything.
The owner was a master sales guy.
Okay.
And his philosophy was take a guy and break him, even if he's not asking for it. And he gave me, I seen two other guys apply before me, and they just had conversations. When I got there speaking at test taking, he handed me a pamphlet and put it on the table, and it was this quiz to see what you knew technically. You can tell from like the 80s. And I literally told him I know nothing on this page. Like I'm not even going to attempt to fill it out.
Right.
And he goes, exactly. And then for 30 minutes he berated me. And he told, ripped me up and down. And he said, if you're going to work here, you're going to learn. And he put me to what he called cook and installation. And my job at installation was to help guys load up the trucks, pretty much just be a runner. Then eventually they got me piping. They taught me to soft solder, going back to boilers. That was kind of something I really liked, working with just piping all day. And then they moved me up to do a little bit more things in installation. When I would go on these installs, what I got fascinated with was how everything was put together and application. So when I'd be there as kind of like a helper, I'd start talking to the customer about, hey, why don't we do this, and that, and open that door.
So you're there to do a job that somebody's already sold.
Yeah.
And you're just like, hey, why are you doing this? And
just
talking to the customer.
Why didn't we do this, and that? Or did you check this? And I was just curious. And then it just got me, getting a little bit more closer to some higher up people, and they put me kind of under their wing. And then opportunity, one guy quit, another guy quit, top guy got sick, had to get out of the business, and summer came around, and they literally threw me in a truck and said, go. You wouldn't get this opportunity if all these guys didn't leave. Go now. Let's see what you can do. And they did it back and forth. They would put me out there for the summer. All this, you get successful, running calls, fixing things, making money. And then winter would come and they'd pull me back and throw me in a truck with a mentor. And he would terrorize me for 6 months, break me down, throw me back out in the summer. Winter comes, I'm like, am I ready to go out? No, this is a combustible element. It's different than air conditioning. I mean, they did me looking back, they did me a huge favor. When you have mentors like that, you owe them something. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but they really saved my life. I thought I was being treated really hard, but I think nowadays a lot of guys don't have that opportunity to have that type of training and mentorship, and it really helped me. The guy that mentored me and him, he's like a confidant to me to this day.
You're still in contact with him
all the time.
That's an amazing relationship.
If I'm going through something in life and I'm questioning, where I'm at, in 5 minutes, he will bring me right back to, what he used to do in that truck, and I'm ready to go through a wall after talking to him.
That's a great relationship to have. So you get put into the field. A couple guys quit. One guy gets sick. Mm-hmm. You're there working, and at some point, you decided to get really dedicated into learning how to communicate with humans.
Yeah. And
I feel like you are one of the best I've ever seen be able to talk with people. I talk with you on a daily basis more to just see, it's almost like playing conversational chess.
It's mental. It keeps you sharp.
Yeah. And I love our conversations. And one of the things you're really good at is helping a customer make a decision. How did you get these skills? Because, there's 60 guys out there running around. They're going to go to 5 houses each. We're going to be in 300 houses today. Easy.
Right.
And some of the guys are really good at talking with the customer. The customers love them. Some of the guys are struggling. How did you build your skills? This I just don't feel like this is something that came naturally for you.
No. As far as the trade, I saw so many, when I was in installation, I would see so many things where somebody felt they had no choice to buy an air conditioner because of the weather or the unit broke. I didn't want to do that when it was my time to help somebody. So when I go into a house, whether it's a maintenance or an estimate or something's broken, I try and just learn them and get information from them and then tailor advice to their short or long-term goals.
So when you say get information from them, what is the type of information you're looking for?
Some guys come in and they just go right to the unit, start working on it, and hey, you got this wrong with you, you need this. Think of it like a doctor's appointment. If you went to a doctor's appointment and he walked in and said, hey, you got this, you got 6 months to live, or how would you feel?
Not good.
Okay. What if another doctor came in and said, hey, and in a roundabout way kind of learned you, made you feel home, talked to you, hey, you have this is what we can do to tackle it.
Yeah, like you have high cholesterol.
Yeah.
We got some ideas to be able to lower your cholesterol.
So it's
Let's
more
not just go change the heart right away.
Yeah. And I just always took it as an approach to want to just kind of work with somebody as if they were a family member. And then when they would say to me, well, what would you do? I really wouldn't tell them what I would do. I would say, well, based on how long you've been living in this house, how much this is going to cost to fix, your long-term goals. If they told me all the things wrong with this unit, not just the way, just application issues. Well, based on this information, I would go this avenue. So it's tailored to them, not really what I think. Like what I would do for myself.
Yeah. So give me like a example of your most recent scenario like this, because I feel like this is so important for people to understand.
Right.
And there's so many people who need to hear like how you get to where you're providing, these solutions for the customer.
You have a lot of times where we live, people are renting places. So
Okay.
they're a landlord. Mm-hmm. Well, the last thing you want to do as a landlord is dump a ton of money into something that you're trying to get an investment out of to begin with.
Right. Every landlord feels that way.
And the last thing you want to do also is have a tenant calling you constantly saying your air conditioning is not working. So if I have let's say a landlord situation recently where it was a bad compressor that was $3,200 to change, with all the SEER changes, they don't make that unit anymore. So, and he initially was saying, well, maybe I'll just do the compressor. But then he started telling me about how he just did this, and that 6 months prior. And he felt that nobody gave me guidance. Now look where I am now, I'm spending $3,000. So that tech that maybe offered them this solution back then, now that customer feels like, okay, now I'm spending all this. So I would try and, if you go back to that, I would try and just say, hey, this is what you have going wrong. This is what's going to happen in the future. At least have that conversation. Then when you get to the future, if that breaks, you tried to advise them then. What I did recently for somebody that was a landlord is I got them thanks to you, we got them partial credit for what they spent 6 months prior. And then we applied that towards a new installation. What he liked about that was I was able to, with our finance program, give him another year where he technically didn't pay anything.
Yeah.
So he was able to knock that out. He was able to solve the problem then, but knock it out in a year. But it was an open conversation of, okay, we spent this much money. This is what you have going on now. What do you think is the best investment for you? I don't want to be the guy that says you need to do this, or this is what you should do now, or try and sell them something. It's really, hey, how can we tackle it? How can we tackle it together?
One of the hardest conversations I have is I'll have somebody that I know personally, or a friend, or just anybody that, I've been living in the community since '87, high school, college here. And somebody will say, man, I've been on the maintenance program for 4 years, and your technician came out the other day and he said I needed this and this and this. And he goes, all of your other guys just never told me.
Right.
And it's like, and the customer's like, or whoever it is like, I know I need to do it because he showed it to me.
Right.
But why didn't your guys tell me before? And that's the hardest conversation I have at my job.
Yeah, and a lot of guys don't want to be the guy going in there looking like they're trying to push something or sell something.
The funny joke I have in our industry is, hey, we have all of these things available. We got things to clean your air, things to clean your water, things to keep the inside of the air handler clean, protection devices in case we have surge. It's like all of these different items.
Right.
And we walk into the home and we're really quiet and we don't tell the customer anything because we're scared that we're going to come across as a salesman. They're scared that you're just trying to sell me something. Well, the fact of the matter is like, hey, if you beat me, I'll tell you about what we got, but you got to ask, and I'm not going to tell you.
Well, there's another side to it too. Recently, we had somebody call in that wanted to look at replacing the unit. And they put the call on me, and the customer didn't want to deal with me because I fixed their unit too fast last year.
Okay.
So where I thought I went in, figured out the problem fast, replaced the part, got them going, thinking I did them a service, they thought they got a disservice for how fast they got fixed. So that goes back into what I was saying before about making somebody feel like you're helping them. It's kind of like, you could use an analogy. Hey, if you went to the doctor with a medical issue, would you be mad if the doctor saved your life too fast?
No.
No, but in your house, if you're paying $700 for a part, you want to feel like you're getting taken care of.
Yeah.
So it goes all different ways. Even if you just get somebody going quick, it's the connection you make. So that plays into what you were saying before. You know, you asked how did I establish these relationships with customers, just listen to them and trying to help them.
You just won the GOAT Award. It's a national award that we have out of 2,500 technicians. You won it for 2024. Mm-hmm. And I believe you won it for 2023 also. So that's 2 years in a row.
Right.
One of the things that I have found being in this business is the guys who talk to the customer, go over the options with the customer, let them know what's going on, typically are the most successful guys in my company. And those customers never complain.
Right.
It's the guys who go in and don't do anything and don't tell the customer what's going on. And then the customer is surprised.
Right.
And these units never break down at the best time. It's always at a bad time.
Right.
You're never like, oh, I'm glad it's broke.
Right.
Those type of guys, you know, I still love them. I'm glad they're here working for me. I'm constantly trying to work with them to help them be able to communicate better. And, you know, one of the things that I have found is like, you don't just get it by not practicing it. And I know you're probably reading some books or watching some websites or following somebody on Instagram. What are some of your go-tos that you're going to right now?
So I'm just trying to always watch everything where somebody explains life experience.
Okay.
It really has nothing to do, like I always try and watch every type of podcast or something to do with financial success or just helping people in general, or just even something like Joe Rogan that everybody watches.
He has fantastic interviews.
You'll have people come on there and just talk about so many things in life. And if you watch the guest they have on talk, you learn so much about the guest. So whether I'm dealing with you or somebody I meet on the street or a customer, I just kind of try and get all that information out of them by just having a real conversation. I approach the business as not something I'm doing to make money. I approach it as a passion of mine. And yes, the more you treat it that way, the more money you make, you know, if you want to get into that. But really, just trying to help everybody. All the podcasts and stuff, all this like training stuff I've done for our industry is just really just learning to just deal with people. As you mentioned, they always break at the worst time, especially 4th of July. So you're going to have, I always seem to be on call at that weekend. So you're going to have a lot of angry people and frustrated people, and you almost just kind of just let them vent. It's almost like therapy. That's the only approach I take. You know, I recently, in the beginning of the year, got hurt on a job. Me and that customer text constantly because we had a connection before that and we had a connection after. I literally called her as they were waking me up from the surgery, I literally called her 20 minutes later to see how her install went. And and it's genuine, and she was so blown away by it. So it's just really just trying to help people. And not everybody, you're not going to have that with everybody. I'm sure in 18 or 15 years, there's a customer that wasn't happy with me over something. Like I said, if I fixed their unit too fast. So in the past where something like that would have bothered me, which some techs probably feel the same way, I kind of just look at it as their perspective. They are the customer. They are the one they're paying us to come into their house.
Would you consider you're building long-term relationships with each person?
Yeah. And it's just, you have to remember that you're in their house, you're in their space, you're being hired for something.
When I was probably around 21 years old, there was a problem that we had, and I saw the customer in Publix, and I was a little embarrassed to see them, pretty young. I tried to hide, to be honest with you. She found me, and she was really upset. And I just remember how I felt and how like stupid it was for me to act that way. And I was like, I am never, ever going to let this happen to me again. I'm just going to, every single time, do the right thing, even if it costs me money.
Right.
And I still live that way today. I mean, there has been so many difficult conversations, difficult scenarios.
Yeah.
I just never, like, it was that I needed just that one time for that to happen to me to not do it again.
Yeah.
Steven, you talked a little bit about the accident. What happened?
So I was working on a job on just January 10th. I was rolling through my schedule. My kids' sports were starting that night. I was going to work another weekend in a row. And I love working weekends. And my wife that whole morning on the phone was telling me, what is this obsession with working all the time? We got to have a conversation about it later. I said, well, you know, they rely on me. I rely on them. Anyway, so it was the middle of the day. I had a call put on me of the customer I mentioned before. And I've been the one working on her unit, limping it along. She's really, I mean, the unit's melting. It's over on Deer Run on the golf course, and the units sit up on the 12 or 13 foot high garages. So when the call got put on me, I really almost said, just push this off. I don't have the time, put it on somebody else, let me know what happens. But I remembered her, and I wanted to, I have a relationship with her, and she's older. And I was like, let me just go over there and take care of it. So I shoot over there to take care of it, I put my ladder up. She's talking to me outside. I go up on the roof, compressor shot. When I came downstairs, I literally had, when I got off the ladder, I had pieces of her condenser coil in my hands.
To show her.
And I was like, Maria, the unit, it's done. And I've never said, like, I've never been that blunt. And I'm like, I literally said, you need a new air conditioner. And she laughed. So she goes, all right, come upstairs. So we sat for like 30 minutes. And, I come from a Catholic, but we're not super religious. She's very into God. And she looked at me, she said, we finished everything. It was a Friday. She was going to get the air conditioning on a Monday. And she looked at me and she said, you're working way too much. I could see it. And she goes, and I said, yeah, it's what I love to do. And she's, always trying to get me back into the church. So she goes to me, God's going to send you a sign. I said, oh, he might be. So I leave the house, I go outside, I go to the truck, I turn the truck on, and I said, oh, let me go get the ladder. I pull the ladder off the garage, and I realized I left gauges on the roof. I knew we were coming Monday to do the install, and I'm sure the installers would have loved to see me leave tools for them. But I said, let me just go grab it. Put the ladder back up, went up there, turned around. This is like 3 o'clock. I'm supposed to be at football in 2 hours. As I walked over to get on the ladder, I went to step on the ladder. And as soon as I stepped on the ladder, it was like God just yanked the ladder away from me. Came flying down on the ladder. There's all these people around. Nobody, they act like they didn't even hear anything. Adrenaline's pumping. Went to pick myself up, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, not crippled. Went to pick myself up, and my foot was like that. So I called Ralph in the office because we had just got off the phone. And I was like, dude, I'm pretty hurt. But I said it like that. And he was like, what's the matter? I'm like, this ladder just gave out. I'm like, gotta call the ambulance for me. So I get off the phone with him. I call my wife. I'm like, I fell off a ladder. And I'm saying it like this. Like, I'm in shock. She goes, you idiot. She goes, you got to be at football in 2 hours. I'm like, no, Ashley, like, the foot's sideways. She's like, oh my God. Just flipping out. Ambulance comes. Ralph shows up. Kyle shows up. Cut the boot off me. Send me to the hospital. They gave me every drug in the world. And the pain was excruciating. They knocked me out. They reset the foot. And going back to our conversation about treating people, customers. When I went to meet with the surgeon, I made customer. And he walked in and I said, I'm all wrapped up. It's been 4 days. And I said, excruciating pain still. I said, hey, listen, I love what I do for work. I heard you rebuilt the whole guy's ankle. You're the best. And he was walking in 3 months. I'm like, I got to get back to work. And he looked at me and he was trying to tell me the severity of it, but he just hit me right away. He's like, work. He goes, do you know what you have? He's like, this is, you'll be working in an office. This doesn't go right. And he was like, wow. And I looked at him, and my wife's sitting there, and I work, and my wife, takes care of the kids. And I said, what do you mean? And he pulls up on us. He's like, and he explains the whole injury, displaced talus neck fracture. He's like, this is a long haul of pain. This is 6 months before you're walking. He's like, there's long-term. So it was like being hit with, hey, you need a new air conditioner. It's $10,000. You need this done now. That's what it reminded me of, like what we're against and we try and teach of. And it leveled me. I had surgery the next day. Fast forward now, everything's going well. But while I've been sitting home, I've been thinking, man, I was the customer. He's he's helping me. It brought me back to what we were talking about before, taking care of people. What I wish I would have had was, hey, listen, I understand you love what you do. I understand that's your wife. This is very serious. We're going to do everything we can to get you back.
You would have loved to have heard her dad.
But now looking back, we have a really good relationship, me and the surgeon, and he said, if I would have said that to you, you would have been trying to walk. You would have been trying to go back to work and as soon as you could. So so anyway.
When you had the accident, I didn't know how severe that particular accident is. It's now May 9th?
Yeah, it's been 17 weeks since I had it. I
And
just started walking.
You're barely walking.
Mm-hmm.
Barely. I mean, you're hobbling around. But I didn't realize how serious of a fracture that is.
Yeah.
It's just really, really gnarly. It can cut blood flow off to the foot.
It's what happened to Tiger Woods. He couldn't walk the golf course anymore. He ended up getting... So anyway, my whole thing was, I love this business so much, and I was imbalanced with it. So it was all of this all the time. Customers get me on the phone at midnight, which I still like. But it taught me a little bit of balance. Here I am trying to work, which you should do. But it did teach me a balance where I'm almost lost the business. And now I'm starting to get my way back into it. So if you treat this business like that and have a passion for it, not only do you help people, but it can give you a great life. I don't know what I would do if I didn't do this for work.
Let's talk a little bit about the business.
Sure.
Incredible accident. You live in Nocatee.
Yeah.
You've seen the Jacksonville area now for 6 years?
Almost 5.
Almost 5.
Yeah.
Almost 5 years. What are some of the crazy things you've seen? What are some of the problems you've solved?
Sure. So my favorite thing that we've done as a company that I've been involved in, and this goes back to listening to people, I did a preventative maintenance for a customer of ours, a longtime customer, 3 years ago. And when I went to do this maintenance, we started talking, and it was my first time being there, so she was getting to know me, asking me where I'm from, just nonchalant. This isn't like, when you're trying to get information or connect with people, it's not supposed to be a project. It's just regular two people talking. And I said, how long have we been working on the unit? And she goes, you guys always come, do the service, and when I have a problem, I have a home warranty company. And we know how those goes. That's a whole other conversation. And I said, okay, did the service, went through everything. About 2 months later, unit failed. She asked for me. I come over there. She had a bad condenser fan motor. So she has the home warranty company. So I wrote up a whole detailed invoice, which I was doing my job, but that meant something to her. I worked with the warranty company to get them out there fast. They put a motor in there. 6 months later, we go back to do the maintenance. Everything's been running. When I'm doing the maintenance, I take everything apart. The motor that they put was a universal motor where the shaft was this long. Without getting too technical, when it's that long, it hits the compressor.
Yeah.
It was wearing out a hole, like carving into that compressor.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, home warranty companies are an interesting thing to deal with.
Right.
So there's a couple of them out there, American Home Shield, Old Republic, 210 something. Right. And what they require is that you have maintenance done on your air conditioning system.
Right.
And then when you have a problem, you call them.
Yeah.
And when you call them, they're sending somebody out that is doing whatever they want to do to your air conditioning system to get it running.
If they even get there in the 2-3 weeks.
It's absolutely crazy. And the quality of work and the quality of person that's coming into your home.
Right.
It's never a good deal. And I've always wondered how the Ponzi scheme is going to eventually fall. Yeah. Because that's exactly what it is.
I think some of them years ago down here used to be really good. Mm-hmm. But I think the part where they get people is they promise that if you will get a new air conditioner for free. Yeah. And that never seems to happen. And I've worked really hard for some people trying to get that for them. And sometimes it's worked, sometimes they've gotten a credit, but going back to this customer here, they have this wrong motor and this could cause another issue. So I didn't go inside and make them freak out. I said, hey, come check this out, Nancy. So she comes out, she looks at it, she goes, oh, that's not good. So we got back on the phone with the home warranty company. They came out like 2-3 weeks later, they put the right motor in. What I loved about going to this house was they weren't ready to do anything big, but she kept telling me about the free flow air conditioner and how do you improve that? And that's a forever home. So that's a big thing I like to ask, is this a forever home? So I said, when you're ready, we can take this out of this closet. We can put the new unit in the attic. All of her ductwork was that old duct board that's not meant for Florida. And it was literally undersized and just falling apart. I said, when that time comes, we could always invest in the ductwork if you want. We can knock everything out at once.
So it looks like we got a picture of it.
So that's the finished product. If you go to the one where it's in the closet.
So that right there.
That's after we took everything out.
Yeah. So that was the whole shebang in the original.
So that's the original one in the closet. So every time we would come do the maintenance.
What size unit was that?
It's a 3.5 ton. That's all. You know, I'm so glad you said that. It's also oversized.
Too big.
Too big.
Having a unit that's too big for the home is a problem. Doesn't run long enough. Doesn't remove as much humidity. You use more electricity.
Yeah. When it comes to air conditioning, bigger is not better.
No.
So we also discussed that. We discussed when the time comes, we can relocate that into the attic, build a whole design for it, put the right size air conditioner house. We went over all the benefits of that.
So all new ductwork, relocating the air handler.
Yeah, our install team did a fantastic job. I can see it, but they are phenomenal at making it happen.
Hey, a big shout out to the install team.
Yeah.
You guys are fantastic.
There's plenty of jobs where I show up in the morning, they look like they want to kill me.
Yeah.
But they all end up knocking it out.
They absolutely inspire me to work harder because I worked install growing up and it's hard work. And I look at all of the install pictures when they finish up and the quality of product they're putting out, I'm very proud of.
Yeah, I mean, look at that finished product right behind the joists.
Yeah.
We put a high efficiency air cleaner in there, UV lights. Bottom line is what was unique about this one is me and her talked about this for 3 years every time I would go there. And one day she finally said to me, hey, we're ready to make this happen. Some things happened in those 3 years family-wise that made things tough. I knew all about that, going back to making connection with people and helping them. And they were obviously, when we did this, they took advantage of our finance program, which was, I mean, it was a no-brainer for them.
One of the funniest things I've ever witnessed you do real time. We were finishing up a meeting and you were talking with another one of our technicians and you were like, hey, what did you talk about with the customer in the home? And he's like, well, I talked with her about her air conditioner. And you go, well, did they have any pets? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, you don't remember if they had any pets? Typically if they got a dog, you remember.
Yeah.
And then you ask this question that I'll never forget. And you're like, do you know her first name? He's like, no.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of the things you do a really good job at is you make a friendship with somebody.
Yeah.
You like people.
Yeah.
And you give them your cell phone. You make it like a white glove service.
Yeah.
And you stand by your work. And you do a fantastic job out there building relationships with people.
But you have to have the right company too.
Yeah, everybody's got to be aligned.
Yeah.
In order for it to work.
And that's another thing you have to take serious too is I'm going out to calls now for people that knew your dad from 30 years ago. So I have to match what they're used to and exceed it and show the growth. So you kind of take that serious. Like I said, there's not every customer that you're going to connect with. You know, I've made mistakes in houses. I've engineered things wrong and misdiagnosed things before. I mean, going back to doctors, you know, we are like doctors and sometimes you could be wrong. But if you do your best and really fall in love with the business, it's a great field to be in.
I love doing it.
Yeah.
I feel like what I'm doing is important. I feel like if somebody uses somebody else, they are making a mistake.
Yeah.
That being said, you know, there are some guys in Jacksonville that I have a lot of respect for, and a couple of companies, they, you know, do things a little different, and some of them I agree with, some of them I don't.
Right.
But I feel like if there's anything that goes wrong, we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the things we do really well. And then, you know, all the people that work here, you know, they're so talented in what they do. And when you get all of it working together, it's a real beautiful thing.
Yeah. I mean, I met your brother, Jimmy, maybe 2 years ago in the gym. Before I met him, I knew everything about him.
Just
from the customers. So when he came up to me, he said something funny, which let me know that he knows about me. And then I said something funny back to him. And I actually, before I met him, would talk about him to other customers just based off what I heard from other customers. I felt like I knew the guy. And that was a testament to however many years he went into these people's homes. Another customer, I went in to do service for, and she goes, oh, how's Jimmy doing? I said, great. The husband and wife said, when he was having his first baby, he came over and he sat with us for like 4 hours. I had a beer with my husband and just talked about how excited he was to be a dad. You know, that resonated with those people. And that's something that if you really take in with this business, it's great. You know, we talked about my injury. You know how many times I've called whatever doctor I was dealing with since this to set up PT or something, I can't get anybody on the phone. You can get you on the phone anytime. You can get me on the phone anytime. Like I said, I was coming out of surgery and I'm on the phone with the customer. So if you treat this business like that, it's a great career to be in. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. At this point, I don't know how to do anything else. So
we're grateful that you're doing it.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Let's talk again soon.
Okay.
All right.